Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to see the Edge today. My name is Scott Ferguson. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for the Estimating Edge. I'll show you today how the Edge can streamline your entire estimating process. You're not only producing estimates faster, but with better accuracy as well, thereby allowing you to win more projects. Before I delve into that, I want to give you a little bit of background on the Edge. The Estimating Edge itself is not a new company to the construction industry or software industry. We are excuse me, I got a third screen. We've been around almost 40 years. All we do is estimating software. So all we do is estimating software for the Edge itself. So we've been asked over the years to delve into more of accounting or CRM functions. We've resisted that. We want to be the best at one thing instead of okay at a number of things. There are a number of factors that make the Edge a very valuable tool as far as the estimating is concerned in takeoff. One, it's a cloud-based system, as you can see from my screen here. So it gives you a lot of flexibility of when, where, and how you can estimate. So you also don't have to worry about storage capacity or security, as we hired Microsoft Azure to manage our cloud. Additionally, if you have PMs or ownership that like to look at your bids, or if you have multiple estimators within your company, think of the Edge just like a library book when you're a kid. You can check it in or out. So if you're done with the Edge, you can check it in, and somebody else can check it out with a new user ID and password. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Two, it's a pre-built system right out of the box. So depending on what trade you are, all these assemblies and items, the majority of them are already loaded into the system for you. So you don't have to take the time to build those out. Secondly, it's a one-stop shop for estimating. It combines the takeoff and the estimate into one platform. So therefore, you don't have to jump around to multiple software programs to complete those two functions. And lastly, it's customizable. The database itself can be built to your specifications. We have hundreds of customers across the US and Canada, and each one of their databases are strictly specific to themselves. So we load your pricing and your labor rates directly into your database for you, and then you can manage those moving forward. What you're seeing here on my screen is called our bid tree. This is where all of your bids are housed. Now, one common theme with the Edge, it's very customizable, as I mentioned already. I have it set up where I can see all my bids. If you have multiple estimators, you want to see all bids, you can set that up that way as well. If I choose to move forward in the Edge and start a new bid, I just simply hit this plus button in the upper right-hand corner, and this dialog box is going to pop open. So as soon as I start to type into this, you notice these cookies down here are no longer grayed out. So the Edge can be simple or can be complex, depends on how you like to estimate. If I want a wealth of information, if I click on this miscellaneous cookie, for example, this box is going to pop open. So if I want to see builder, GC, bid zones, bid number, I can enter all that information, which is great to have, 6-8 months down the road. But you don't have to enter any of that information to start the bid. I just simply have to name it and hit add images. Now the Edge is designed to work on multiple monitors, so this can open on my other screen. So I'm going to bring in an image directly from my desktop. Any type of JPEG, PDF, a satellite image from Google Earth or Eagle View can be brought directly into the Edge. So I'm going to bring in one image. I can choose to bring in one, or I can bring in 100. There's no limitation in the Edge itself. So sorry, just getting, here we go. I'm going to add this image. Add this page directly into the Edge. It's going to bring it over from my desktop into the Edge itself now. So I'm going to move away from my bid tree now to my scenarios, which I've simply named cloud. Now, what scenarios is used for? Let's say, for example, you want to see the cost difference between different manufacturers. I can do that here, or the difference between different type of, in this case, it's roofing, different type of roofing scenarios, say an EPDM or a TPO can be done right here. There's no limitation. So I can have one scenario or I can have 20. From here, I'm going to have one, keep it simple, and move forward with the arrow button. This is how you navigate no matter what trade you're in, to my sections, which is a subset of my scenario. Now, continuing the theme, if I want to have one section or 30 sections, I can have that here. For example, if I hit this plus button, I can add a new section very simply. Now, what it's designed to use for, let's say an example of this roofing one, if I had an apartment complex and I'd say I have building A, building B, building C, I can separate each one of those buildings out from a cost perspective and still tie it overall back to my overall job. So I'm going to keep it simple and very top level and have one section and move forward to my pages, which is simply what I brought in. Now, to reiterate, if I want to have 10 plans, 20 plans, 30 plans, I can have that here. In this case, I just have one called the North Lake Roof Plan. And now I'm going to move forward again to my conditions. This is where we start to see some pretty cool information. As I said, this is pre-built right out of the box. So if I hit this plus button here, all these conditions are already in there for you. So you just customize it from here based on what you want to see. For example, if I hit this single ply group, I can have TPO group. These are all pre-built already. We have some specific ones already for manufacturers, Carlisle, Firestone, Manville, and then you can add the masters as yourself as you move forward. So if I add, say, a single ply group, I want to bring in this TPO, I can bring in all of these conditions or just a few. In this case, I'll bring in a few. Bring some wall flashing, some curb flashing, maybe some roof drains, VTRs. I can always go back. I've forgotten to add them in later as well. I'm going to add these, hit add to page. It's now going to bring in these 6 conditions that I brought in. Now, inside of each one of these conditions, what we call condition properties, really the guts specific to that particular product. So if I double click on this TPO, for example, it's going to pop open. As you can see, it's already defaulted. Here's the width, 5 and 100. I can change that to whatever I want. If anytime I see a blue box with these 3 dots, it's what we call a pick list, really a database within a database specific to that job. So if I click on this TPO here, as you can see, right out of the box, here's all the manufacturers. On occasion, where I'm missing one, we can load it into the system for you. I can pick and choose whatever I want. If I'm good to go with it, I just OK and X out of it. I can move across here to here's the installation cookie. Here's the ISO, same thing, specific to that product. You can search alphabetically if you choose to. And you can move across. If I wanted to adhere this one, I turn it on and take out the fasteners. So this is where you make your changes to the guts of the roof for each specific estimate you're doing. Take a time and move forward and go into the wall flash and double click it. Same thing. Can change it to whatever I want here, add different links, copy and paste it to whatever heights that I needed, and move forward from here. Now, if let's say I'm good to go with all 6 of these conditions and the properties associated with it, I go up here to my computer terminal, which is my takeoff screen. Again, this combines the estimate and takeoff into one platform. So I click on that. Here's the drawing that I brought in. Now, the edge will prompt you when you have to do something. I have to set a scale. So I can do that one of 2 ways. I can trust that what the architect sent over here, 1/8 of an inch, is correct, or I can measure it myself. I can hit scale, hit calculate, and pretend this section of the roof, let's say, is 30 feet. Hit OK. It's now giving me a scale. Or I can use the drop-down bar here and select it, hit OK. And now I have the ability to actually start to do some takeoff. So I just essentially move around the perimeter of the roof. It's going to give you a corresponding color and the map associated with it. Again, it's all set up the way you want it. It's customizable. If you don't like this feature in the upper right-hand corner, measurement can be turned off. What you can't see, since this is designed for multiple monitors, as soon as I finish measuring the TPO here for this roof, on my other screen, everything for that TPO item-wise has been brought over. I'll show you that here shortly. Here's your square foot, linear foot, and the segment termination number of turns based on that TPO. Throw in some wall flashing. I can change the colors. There's a lot of bells and whistles on here you can do. I won't show you all of it. What's important is the data. As you can see now, probably, it's snapping to my previous point. It's giving me that square. Again, if you don't like that, in the upper right-hand corner, you can turn it off under snap. I'm not going to measure all of this for the sake of time. I just want to show you the data it gives you, which is really what's important. Here's your linear foot down here. Throw in some curves. I can zoom in or out with my mouse. It's important to note that the edge is not a static program. What you see here out of the box is not the same, excuse me, next quarter. We add new features and functions all the time. There's no additional charge for that. It's just up to you to download it. So a lot of the programs on the market today, what you see is what you get. Not the case with the edge. We're constantly understanding that technology changes, so we have to keep up with it. So we just try to make it a more efficient system than it already is. And a lot of the new features and functions we add into it come directly from our customers. I mean, we know estimating, but not as well as you. So there's some curves. I'm going to throw in some walkway pads, so there's some more information. I can highlight, I can point. You can do saved annotations, text directly on here. You can do URLs directly out of the takeoff screen as well as images. So if you want to see an image, say from a manufacturer of an item, you can put it directly onto the takeoff, which is somewhat of a new feature for us too. Also, if you have not done any type of CAD-like drawings, such as this one, or takeoff, there's a number of things that will help you. Like, for example, there is no walkway pads up there, obviously. But if I come over here, I can hit undo and it'll go away. That'll become a good friend of yours as you learn the edge. I'm throwing some roof drains, so we have some data and some BTRs. Let me get out of this, X out of my takeoff, go back into my conditions. Here's your square foot, linear foot, and counts for each one of those conditions I just measured. But if I come over here to this little dollar sign, this is my material pricing screen. So if I click on that, this is going to pop open. So here's everything I need for the roof based on the takeoff I just did, brought over for you. The Edge will prompt you when there's a problem. I don't know why this warranty is red. There's no pricing in this database, so I can just simply turn it off. One feature we added a couple years ago, which has been very popular, is what we call vendor quote. So if I select this TPO and ISO, for example, and come over here to this icon here and select it, it's going to jump me out to this portal here. Now I have some fictitious suppliers set up, like Scott's Equipment, for example. So this is what this does, is going to give you real-time pricing for these two items in question directly from your manufacturer that flows right into the Edge. So it really streamlines the process for you. I'm going to select it. Here's the quantity in question and hit send. So now it's going to send an email directly from you to the actual supplier. And if I wanted to, I could select all these suppliers, 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. They each get an individual email. And that's something we help you set up during your implementation and training with us. So what you see now, if I drag over my inbox, Scott from Dave Roos requested a vendor quote from the following items. So at this point, the vendor, Scott's Equipment, is going to select this URL, click on that, and it's going to shoot them out to this other link. I'm going to verify my email, confirm it. Now at this point, I'm going to throw in some fake pricing for these two items in question. And hit an expiration date. The vendor, if they choose to, can do a note, something to the effect of like almost out of stock. I can hit submit prices. And now I'll send an email back confirming that to you. But if I jump back into the Edge, anywhere from 3 to 4 minutes, I'm gonna get a little hand that'll pop up right here. And if I select it and hit apply, it's gonna apply that pricing directly for those two items in question right here. Now it's just changing the pricing for this job, but if I choose to, I can mark it like I did here, come over here to this icon, hit send to database, hit price, and hit OK, and boom, I've changed it for future jobs as well. So it really streamlines the entire process for you. All these columns are customizable. You can move them around, change them, add them in, whatever you want. This again is the net cost of the material, and this is just the vendor or material side of things. So if I wanted to, I can jump over here to my clock, which is my labor screen. Also, we have this Excel button here. If you want to do old fashioned, you can send this out as Excel directly too. Come over to my labor. Here's my labor. Everything green looks good. Now, the way the Edge does labor, it's estimated unit per hour. So what they're saying is one man or one person can do 33.33 linear feet of the sheet weld seams in an hour. Say he or she is super fast, hit 40. And it's showing that production's increasing. And if I want to, just like the material screen, I can mark it, come over here, hit send to database, production rate, boom, and it's changed for future jobs. Same thing applies on the labor screen as the material screen. Here's all the columns in question. You can move them around, change them out, whatever you want. All these can be moved as well. One thing I did not show you that I want to show you here, if I go back to my material screen, I cannot order 12.02 rules of this TPO. So if I mark it, come over here, hit auto round, and auto round that up. And I can choose to do that for every item as well if I choose to. We also have a direct integration with Beacon. If you order from Beacon, you can actually directly order your products from the Edge screen itself. If I come over here back to my labor screen, now we do have to have a screen that combines both the material and labor, which is our recap screen. Here's the material net cost, hours, and man days associated with this. If I come over to this little check mark here, click on it, and I can expand this out if I choose to. Here's your tax rate, set up at 7%. I can change that manually if I choose to, or add an additional one. There's no limitation. So if I add a new one here, when I add that in, it's going to change the math all the way down below as well. And we actually added a new feature as well. If you work in multiple states called locales, you can set up, let's say you're doing work in Lincoln, Nebraska, you can set up the tax rate, your burden, your profit percentage, all that, and it'll be defaulted to the rates that you set automatically. And of course, you can change it manually as well. As I mentioned, the Edge is not a static program. We change it constantly, make it a more efficient system than it already is. For example, we were asked by a longtime customer this profit percentage here to change this amount if I wanted to. What happens if I change the contract amount from say 199 to what happens to the profit when I move it to 190? So how to move that profit from 25 down to 19%. So you can play around with it. This can be sent out to Excel as well. Here's your hours, man days, and total squares and the total job amount. So all that comes through nicely. You can send this out to Excel as well. It's based on the material screen, pricing screen, any type of labor, and recap screen has the Excel button onto it. Now also here's the vendor quote. It's come over. So if I select this little hand that's popped up and hit apply, I have to select the vendor. If I had multiple vendors on here, I could actually choose the lowest price if I wanted to. Hit Scott's Equipment and hit apply. There you go, it's changing automatically. And again, I can mark it and save it right to the database. So it's really efficient, really streamlines the whole processing for you. Depending on what trade you are, I know pricing fluctuates quite a bit. So this helps with that quite a bit. I want to show you one other thing too here. This is our portal. In the upper right-hand corner, we have this little gear shift. It's our administration portal. So if I select it, it's going to jump me out to this little area here. So I can get a snapshot directly of what's going on with my estimates by hitting this dashboard icon here. Why I access this through the actual Edge license itself. If you're at lunch on your smartphone, you can access this with a user ID and password. So if you want to see what's going on and get an idea real quick, here's the different estimates associated with it. I can jump into any of them if I choose to. All of the reporting functions are also accessible from the administration portal. If I select that here, here's all the different reports associated with it. I can also control all my information here. If I come over here to my administration, let's say you have multiple licenses or you hire, say, for example, a junior estimator. It's very important to keep your database clean. You can't have anybody just going in there and making changes to it. I can set up roles. As you can see here, permission, add, modify, delete, what he or she can do, which is kind of nice. So if I move back into the Edge, I do want to show you the reports. We have a number of reports directly built into the Edge automatically. If I select that here, there's a number of reports. Here's the drawing report based on the takeoff I just did. It's probably gonna open on my other screen. Here it is right here. So I can also send this out to Excel, PDF, or Word, and all this information here, of course, will be yours as well. There's a number of reports pre-built. You can design your own reports. It's something we can assist you with as well. In your case, you're wondering about how I learn the Edge, how I get it set up, we do training two ways. Do it in person, either to our office or our office in South Florida, or you can do it virtually. It's what we started during the pandemic. So either way will work. We do it depending anywhere from 2 to 4 days, depending on the trade. And we set up your labor rates, load your pricing, and customize your database during that time. And once that initial implementation training is completed, we do have a tech team that you can call, chat, or email with 5 days a week. And they're not in India or somewhere else, they're in South Florida. They know the Edge and they know all the trades. So there's no additional costs associated with that. But here's a number of different reports. As I said, if you want to design your own, that's something we can assist you with as well. We do have a number of options in the Edge. It's specific to roofing, for example. We have a standing seam and tapered insulation. If I want to come over to my sections and add a new section here, I can hit this plus button here and type in, let's say I want to do a standing seam, which is going to give you a cutout list, which is really nice. Add a new section, come over here to my images, bring in a new image. This will open on my other screen. And if you do re-roofs, you can manually draw on the Edge as well. You just have to have a known dimension to set the scale. So let me pull in another drawing here. Let me find it. There we go. So I'm pulling in a standing seam drawing. I'm going to add a new page to it, just the same exact movement and function as I did before with the TPO. So if I come over here, it didn't load for some reason. Let me bring it back in. There we go. Now if I move forward from here, I'm going to navigate with the arrow from my sections to my pages, the standing seam job, back into my database, the conditions. Go down here and find the roofing group. I'll pull in the standing seam module. Load that from the database to my page. And from here, the same thing. I can double click it and change anything to the condition properties. It's defaulted. Here's the manufacturer to barrage. Same thing. Here's a pick list specific to the panels. Same thing as I move across. Insulation. Choose. This is where you make all your changes to it. If I'm good with it, I go back into my takeoff screen. Here's the scale. I can set a scale here, or I can trust it was sent over. Again, from the architect down here. So I hit scale, hit the drop down box. From here, I just measure each section of this roof. And you give it color. I'm going to do the high-low, which is essentially the water flow. If I choose to, I can do the entire roof at one time or each section individually. Again, you can see it's snapping to my previous point. Now this is an add-on. It's separate from the main roofing module. It comes with the edge. But if you do any type of standing seam, this really simplifies your life, as it gives you the entire cutout list, which I'll show you here shortly. Same thing with our tapered insulation module. Most people choose to send that off to their manufacturers. Sometimes it can take a week or two to get back, and a lot of times the waste is inflated. You control all that because then, of course, you now have it in-house. So I'll go back out here, back into my reports. I now have a new report that's been generated here. So if I'm going to run that, here's the first report. Labeling each one, let me increase the size. Labels each panel for you. Here's the next one with the cutout list, which is kind of nice. Here's your quantity, labeling each one, and the length of each panel for you. So what I suggest, if you have multiple licenses and you adopt the edge, is you can put it on one license to start with. And whenever you have standing seam or tapered insulation for that matter, you can just simply pull that license to complete it. So what the edge does is it really streamlines your entire process. As I mentioned at the outset, you can complete the entire estimate and takeoff in one platform. And additionally, you now have a reporting function to it associated with it and the portal. Also in the portal, we added this a few months ago, which is really nice, really completes and closes the circle, is we now have the ability to do different proposals in the edge directly from the edge itself, which is nice. You no longer have to generate your own proposal. We have the ability to do that right here. So from there, you can, from the proposal generated in the edge, you can add in the reports directly into it and send it out to your customers. So that's the main part of the edge. We can get really deep in the weeds. If you choose to and you have more questions, or if you want to see the edge individually, please email me. Again, it's sferguson@estimatingedge.com. That's SFERGUSON. And we can set something up individually, discuss the edge and how it can benefit you. Are there any questions? One common question I do get, I don't see one on here yet, but I did mention that what application can I use for the edge? It needs to be a Windows platform. It's not to be used with Apple. So we do have a few customers use on an Apple product, but it doesn't run smoothly and it's much slower, so it's highly not recommended. So, but I appreciate your time. If you have any questions that you think of after the webinar now, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to discuss them with you. Thanks so much. Have a good day.